does come in from Canada.
It does.
And so we'll end up putting very severe tariffs on that if we have to, because that's the way you want to bolster here, and we can do it here.
But think of it as the basis of most food.
Yeah.
Right? So it's fertilizer. So go to your bag in the garage or your Miracle-Gro thing.
Yeah.
There's 3 numbers on it. The third number is the potash content.
Right.
So half of the world's food supply is directly attributable to fertilizer. So fertilizer is food, right?
Yeah.
Potash is fertilizer. Then there's only 2 places in the world to really get it. Here in Canada,
Yeah.
well, Saskatchewan, hello.
Yes.
And you're from Shaunavon.
You've probably never thought about potash. It's a mineral hidden deep underground, yet it quietly feeds billions of people every day. Without it, crops would fail, supermarkets would empty, and global food prices could skyrocket. Right now, the US depends on Canada for almost all of its supply, and when tariffs were threatened, nobody expected what would happen next. Suddenly, this tiny mineral became a weapon in a trade war, one that could shake the foundations of American farming.
And they start charging and sending it, very high prices from other countries, whether it's Canada or somebody else. We're not going to let that happen.
How did one quiet mineral gain so much power? Could a single province in Canada control the future of US agriculture? And what does this mean for the world's food supply? Most people have never heard of potash. It doesn't trend on social media. It isn't talked about on the news every night, but without it, grocery stores wouldn't just get expensive. They'd start going empty. Potash is a mineral that turns into fertilizer, and fertilizer isn't just helpful, it's essential. It makes crops grow stronger, faster, and bigger. Corn, wheat, soybeans, vegetables, all of it depends on this one quiet ingredient. Farmers even call it the silent backbone of modern food.
We're not talking about cars, that you could choose to not get a car or not. This is food. This is the production of food production, right? It's one of those things that the price of food goes up, interest rates go up, everything goes bad, and this is different. It's not a luxury item, it's not an optional item. We need to eat, and this one needs to be treated completely differently. People talk about it as a weapon in a trade war.
Yeah.
Some weapons you don't use.
Really? Why do you say that?
Well, this is different. This is food. This is food supplies. This isn't a car.
No potash, no real harvest. It's that simple. Here's where things get wild. The United States barely produces any of it. In one recent year, the US made less than 500,000 tons, but it used over 5 million tons. That means America doesn't just prefer to import potash, it has no choice. And almost all of it comes from one place, Canada. More specifically, the province of Saskatchewan. This one region holds more than half of the world's known supply. Think about that for a second. One area, mostly underground, quietly controlling the key ingredient behind global food production. This is why potash isn't just a mineral anymore. It's power, it's leverage, it's a pressure point. And once you understand that, you start to see why the next move shocked everyone. And that's where the trouble started. When Donald Trump began talking about new tariffs, the message sounded tough. Put America first, protect American jobs, make foreign countries pay their fair share. To a lot of people, that sounded strong, but when it came to potash, this plan had a massive hidden crack. Unlike cars or steel, you can't just turn on a factory and suddenly make potash. It comes from underground deposits that took millions of years to form, and the US doesn't have big enough reserves ready to use. Even if America wanted to mine more, it would take close to a decade and billions of dollars just to build one new mine. That's not a quick fix, that's a long gamble. So when the idea of putting heavy tariffs on Canadian potash appeared, experts got nervous fast. Not because Canada would suffer, but because American farmers would. Here's why. The tariff wouldn't be paid by Canada. It would be paid by the people buying it in the US. That means fertilizer prices go up. And when fertilizer prices go up, farm costs explode overnight. Some experts warned prices could jump 20% to 30%. That doesn't sound huge until you realize farmers spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on fertilizer. A small jump turns into massive bills. For family farms, it's not a headache, it's a breaking point. And the worst part? Farmers had no other real choice. They still needed the potash. They still had to plant their crops. They still had bills, loans, workers, fuel, and land to pay for. There was no skip this season button. So what looked like a strong political move slowly started to feel like a trap. While everyone was watching what the US might do next, Canada was already thinking 10 steps ahead. See, Canada didn't need to shout. It didn't need to threaten loudly because it already had the strongest card in the entire game, Saskatchewan. That one province isn't just rich in potash, it basically runs the global supply. Over 40% of the world's exported potash comes from that single region. That means when Canada speaks about potash, the entire world listens. And when talk of US tariffs started heating up, Canadian officials quietly floated a dangerous idea. What if they slowed down exports? Not a full stop, not a loud announcement, just tightened the flow. That possibility alone sent shockwaves through farming and trade circles. Because the truth is brutal, the US can't just switch suppliers. Russia and Belarus do produce potash, but sanctions, conflicts, and political chaos make them risky and unreliable. China has some reserves, but nowhere near enough to cover global demand. There is no magic backup supplier waiting in the wings. If Canada ever decided to shift its exports elsewhere, the US wouldn't just face higher prices, it would face shortages. And while America was busy debating tariffs, other countries were already moving fast. Brazil quietly locked in long-term potash deals with Canada. China expanded multi-year contracts. The world wasn't waiting to see what Washington would decide. They were securing their food supply. That's the scariest part of economic wars. Once supply chains move, they almost never move back. When buyers leave, they build new relationships, new contracts, new dependencies. And while America hesitated, the rest of the world adapted. But the real damage wasn't happening in government buildings. It was happening on farms. While politicians argued and countries made deals, the real pressure was crushing the people in the middle. American farmers. They were already struggling before this fight even started. Crop prices were dropping, fuel was expensive, equipment costs were rising, and then fertilizer, and the most important input of all, started getting more expensive. For a farmer, fertilizer isn't optional. It's not a luxury, it's survival. Many farmers were already spending 35% to 40% of their entire operating budget just on fertilizer. Potash made up a huge part of that cost, and when tariff threats started floating around, suppliers began warning about sudden price jumps. Imagine planning your season, calculating your expenses, and then being told your fertilizer bill could jump by 6 figures overnight. That's not stress, that's panic. Some farmers took out larger loans just to prepare. Others delayed planting. Many started wondering if they should keep going at all. And this wasn't rare. Farm bankruptcies started rising fast. Some reports showed a jump of more than 50% in a single year. Farmers felt trapped. They couldn't stop buying potash. They couldn't raise food prices themselves. They couldn't control global politics. All they could do was absorb the pressure and hope the system didn't break under them. And the worst part? They didn't feel protected. They felt ignored. Tariffs were being used like weapons in political battles, and farmers felt like they were standing in the line of fire. Relief packages were talked about, but most farmers said the money came too slow and didn't solve the real problem. It felt like someone trying to patch a sinking ship with tape. And while the US struggled to keep farms alive, Canada was quietly building something stronger. While the US was trying to plug holes, Canada was quietly changing the whole game. Instead of just digging and shipping raw materials, Canada started thinking long term. They weren't only selling potash anymore, they were building a stronger, smarter agricultural system. Canadian leaders realized something powerful. Being the world's most reliable supplier was worth worth more than winning a noisy trade fight, so they began shifting their focus. High-quality food exports, premium meat for Asian markets, specialty crops for Europe. Canadian-branded agriculture started becoming a trusted global name, and potash? That was the foundation holding everything up. While the US depended heavily on imports, Canada focused on control of supply, control of relationships, control of long-term contracts. Countries like Brazil and China didn't want drama, they wanted stable food supply, so they started locking in multi-year deals with Canadian producers, not short-term buys, long-term commitments. That kind of move changes everything, because once a country builds a new supplier relationship, it doesn't just disappear. Ports, shipping routes, storage facilities, contracts, all of it gets redesigned. This is the part most people don't see. Trade wars don't just hurt today, they rewrite tomorrow. And if American potash buyers get replaced long enough, those routes won't be waiting when the US comes back. The trains will be going somewhere else. The ships will be crossing different oceans. The contracts will be signed with new partners. That's why this moment matters. It's not just about price increases. It's not just about politics. It's about permanent changes to global food power. And now, the final question is unavoidable. Potash was never supposed to be powerful. It hides underground. It doesn't make headlines. And most people never think about it at all. But now, this quiet mineral has exposed something no one expected. A superpower that can't feed itself without help. The real question isn't whether tariffs will rise or fall. It's whether the US is willing to admit how dependent it's become and fix it before it's too late. Because once supply chains shift, they don't rewind. Once trust breaks, it doesn't snap back. And if a single invisible mineral can shake global food security this much, what happens when the next one enters the fight?